They came from South America over 2,500 years ago. From this land, they reaped the bountiful gifts of nature and lived in harmony with the land and with each other. They had their fair share of challenges, including variations in weather patterns, but the severity of climate change and global warming was not of primary concern. Today, the people who come after the Tainos are facing those challenges. I'm Theodore Henry, and today we look at how Jamaicans are finding success in tackling this and other very critical issues. But first, we join Andrea Chisholm as she provides updates in the news.
Did you know climate change is decreasing the quality and quantity of water?
Climate change is expected to affect all aspects of food security, especially in the tropical region of which we are a part.
Climate change-related hazards such as prolonged droughts, more severe storms, and the overall irregularity of rainfall. These climatic stressors have resulted in a reduction of water in our rivers and watersheds.
Youth, we are depending on you to spread the message of climate change and its impacts. Be a climate change agent in your home, school, or community. With climate change, we must change.
Good day, I'm Andrea Chisholm and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, October 7. Jamaica has not signed a prisoner transfer agreement with the United Kingdom. National Security Minister Peter Bunting gave that assurance to Parliament yesterday as he reiterated that the administration had only signed a non-binding memorandum of understanding that may or may not result in such an agreement. He said a special select committee of Parliament would be established to determine if Jamaica should accept the UK's proposal and under what conditions.
There is no guarantee at this time that this administration will sign a prisoner transfer agreement with the UK. The government of Jamaica would only sign a prisoner transfer agreement after adequate public education and debate and the enactment of new legislation in the Jamaican Parliament.
The UK government is proposing to give Jamaica £25 million to help build a new maximum security facility and £5.5 million for rehabilitation. This is contingent on the signing of an agreement to have Jamaicans in UK prisons finish their sentences on the island. The National Security Minister insists that the proposed prisoner transfer agreement would not be at a net cost to Jamaican taxpayers as the period for transfer could be limited. He adds that each case would be subject to an administrative and judicial review, and UK citizens in Jamaican prisons would also be eligible for transfer to their home country. Another group of public sector workers has accepted government's 7% wage offer for the 2015-2017 contract period. The Finance and Health Ministries signed an agreement on Tuesday with the Jamaica Enrolled Assistant Nurses Association. Health Minister Dr. Fenton Ferguson commended the assistant nurses for being the first batch of health workers to formally accept government's wage offer. Under the agreement, the enrolled assistant nurses will also have access to $2 million in grant funding for training. Minister with responsibility for the public service, Horace Daly, added that government would also be fulfilling a previous commitment made to them and other health workers.
$7 billion worth of reclassification, and 2 payments have been made already. And the third and final payment is to be made in this financial year.
In the meantime, public sector workers represented by the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions and the Jamaica Teachers Association will start receiving their 7% salary increase by the end of October. A timeline for the enrolled assistant nurses to get their increase is being worked out. Non-teaching staff at primary schools are to receive retroactive monies owed to them starting next week. The Ministry of Education says next week's disbursement is the first of a 2-part payment owed to the workers. They will get 50% of the 3 one-off payments that were due to them under a previous wage agreement between government and public sector employees. The balance will be paid in December 2015. Foreign Affairs Minister Senator A.J. Nicholson has joined the call for members of the United Nations to do more and do better to address global challenges in the next decade. Minister Nicholson delivered Jamaica's policy statement at the 70th session of the UN General Assembly on October 2. He argued that despite the laudable achievements of the organization, the global community had fallen short of expectations in some key areas. The Foreign Affairs Minister said Jamaica was looking to the collective will and action of the international community to tackle ongoing crises that threaten global peace and security and to reach an ambitious agreement on climate change. In the meantime, Foreign Affairs State Minister Arnaldo Brown says Jamaica is in full support of the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. It replaces the 2015 Millennium Development Goals (MDGs).
Jamaica fully endorses Agenda 2030. We believe that it is a worthy successor to the MDGs. For while the MDGs provided a useful tool for focusing development efforts, this agenda will help to ensure that these efforts are sustainable. It is no coincidence that it is an agenda for people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnerships.
The State Minister was addressing the United Nations Development Programme Jamaica's Social Good Summit held recently at the University of the West Indies Bona campus. On September 25, world leaders at the UN General Assembly adopted the new agenda, which seeks to complete a number of human development initiatives across the globe. These include ending hunger and eradicating inequality over the next 15 years. Farmers in and around Trelawney can now access services offered by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority (RADA) following the opening of an office in the parish. Speaking at the recent opening ceremony, Agriculture Minister Derek Kelly said farmers would get greater benefits as RADA moved to adopt and use new and modern technologies. He urged the authority to employ more mitigation measures against climate change and natural disasters to ensure continued growth in the sector.
I want to challenge RADA to develop an even greater collaboration with the ministry's research division in identifying and introducing new drought-resistant crop varieties to our farmers to ensure the sustainability of our agricultural sector.
Minister Kelly said the new RADA facility, which was built at a cost of approximately $80 million, was money well spent. The building will also house the Jamaica Agricultural Society and the Jamaica 4-H clubs. And finally, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller is apologizing for not being able to keep a number of speaking engagements this week due to laryngitis. A release from the Office of the Prime Minister says Mrs. Simpson Miller's hectic schedule, including weeks of public speaking activities, has led to an irritation of her vocal cords. As a result, she has been advised by her doctor to rest her voice. So while she remains on the job, the Prime Minister will not be in attendance at several events at which she was scheduled to be the keynote speaker. And that's it for GIS News today. Amanda Chisholm, thank you for watching.
As stated earlier, the Taínos lived in harmony with the land. Our experience today is quite different, as some of the things we are doing are causing negative impacts not only on the land, but on the air, the sky, and the sea. How do we re-establish our balance with our environment? The next feature should have some answers for you.
We're all aware that environmental and climate change resilience is a strategic priority of government. If we do not protect our natural environment while boosting our capacity and tailoring our lifestyle to deal with changes in the environment, our plans for economic prosperity will be limited to just that, a plan. And so the government has been working on a raft of measures to deal with extended changes in weather patterns, or simply put, climate change. It's all being coordinated by the Climate Change Division in the Ministry of Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change. In June 2014, government received and installed 2 automatic weather stations to enhance climate data collection by the Meteorological Services of Jamaica. The acquisition supports the strategy to achieve climate change resilience and comes courtesy of government's participation in the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center 5Cs project. Funded by the European Union, the project coordinates the region's management and adaptation to climate change. The automatic weather stations have since been installed in Manchester, one in New Forest and the other at the Sugar Industry Research Institute.
That has improved our capacity to collect climate data electronically. So we minimize the element of human error that sometimes goes along with manually reading, for example, rain gauge and stuff like that. So information can be downloaded from this equipment and then uploaded on computer at the head office of the Met Services of Jamaica.
There's another component to the 5Cs project that government is actively pursuing: data storage. By the end of December 2014, Jamaica should benefit from the development of a climate change data node.
It is a sort of database of climate information. So we will be developing our capacity to store data electronically, climate change data that is. And this we are getting help to do from this project. It involves us acquiring software, it involves us acquiring licenses, it involves us acquiring additional bandwidth, it involves some level of equipment as well too.
Through this upcoming database for climate change, government will be able to store and analyze information to guide policies and programs. Think about it. Information on the climate is needed for long-term planning. Based on that data, technocrats can come up with projections over a period of time. So if there's a projection for below average rainfall over the next 10 years, for example, stakeholders can plan to expand water storage facilities. That's one way of being resilient to drought, which is sometimes due to climate change.
There's also support to get help or expertise to convert handwritten climate information or data into an electronic format. And already computers have been acquired to facilitate this process, and we anticipate that in short order we'll be having persons employed to actually do the actual work of converting manual or handwritten data into data in electronic format.
Under the 5Cs project, government also continues to work on a climate change vulnerability assessment and an adaptation strategy and action plan for the fisheries sector.
That is something that we're anticipating we'll get support for to the tune of just around $150,000 US. There are some challenges at the moment in terms of the implementation time, but we are anticipating that with approval forthcoming for extension of the project, the 5Cs will be able to assist us in acquiring the technical expertise to carry out the development of the strategy and action plan as well as the vulnerability assessment.
The 5Cs project was originally scheduled to end in December 2014, but discussions are ongoing for it to be extended until June 2015. As government acts on strategic priority number 6, the administration is looking to extend a pilot program for climate change resilience. Discussions are ongoing with the Climate Investment Fund.
We have already gotten funding as a country for phase 1, just over $500,000 US for phase 1, and that helped us to prepare a number of documents. For example, the State of the Climate report for 2012. That was financed from that project.
Under Phase 2, which is being discussed with the Inter-American Development Bank, the plan is for Jamaica to integrate climate change considerations into a number of priority sectors, like health, agriculture, and tourism.
We need to develop a strategy as to how we can make these sectors more resilient to the impacts of climate change. So this particular project is going to help us to develop sector strategies outlining how and what we need to do to minimize the anticipated impacts, negative impacts of climate change.
Let's put it in context. If a beach is being eroded, tourists will no longer have an area of white sand to relax. Added to that, the infrastructure of a hotel might be threatened. But if various stakeholders take beach erosion into account while carrying out different activities, it will help to minimize the impact of climate change. The government of Jamaica, implementing feasible plans to adapt to climate change, achieving strategic priority number 6, environmental and climate change resilience.
Children were important to the Taínos, and they used every available resource to ensure that they remained healthy. Many parents today have that same desire for their children. But to have healthy children, we need to maintain a healthy environment. The children themselves are recognizing the importance of this crucial link. We hear from the young voices as they made their petitions at the second staging of the Youth Climate Change Conference.
I will say stop littering in the gullies and the hair sprays and the smoke in the atmosphere. It helps to open the ozone layer more wide, and it creates like the sun to get more hotter for us to live.
I think that we can tackle climate change by using all these ideas from the younger generation to promote things that we can do, things that we have learned today, and practice it in the school. And by practicing it, students will be able to go home and actually do that and influence other persons in the community to tackle climate change.
What stood out most for me today is the partnership. We can't do it on our own, and we need to partner with other organizations and other persons nationwide. We need to come out and let our voices be heard. We need to do campaigns and show us as students that we stand for something.
I believe that we should all act as responsible youths and do as much as possible to, help to curtail climate change, because it's going to affect us, probably not now, but sometime in the long run.
Yes, the heat is on. And as we continue to deal with the sweltering heat and dry conditions, parents, it's important to keep your kids hydrated.
Give them lots of water, lots of fluids if you can. Do some fun things. If you can either make some syrup with lime, lemonade, and freeze it. You can put popsicle sticks in there, and you have your children do it. And that can be a fun activity for them to do. And it's something that will keep them hydrated also.
The Taínos were primarily farmers and fisherfolk. They grew cassava, sweet potatoes, maize, fruits, vegetables, cotton, and tobacco. Our farmers still harvest these crops today. But the difference is they have to use climate-smart approaches in their farming activities.
You take care, Chris. Yeah. Hey, how you do?
Good morning.
What prices you have on these
I'm
things?
cabbage
How much
for
for the cabbage?
$40. String bean are for $80. We have nice cut
And
honey
the
pepper.
sheen?
The sheen is for $80, and you can get a half one if you want it to.
Yes, fine.
Yeah.
Do you know where your food comes from? Your dasheen, tomatoes, yams. Well, most of the foods that you purchase in this and other markets across Jamaica is grown by farmers. But farming is no easy task. Ask any farmer. Today, we'll be visiting with some farmers in the Rio Mino watershed in the hills of Clarendon. And they will share with us some of the challenges that they experience while trying to put food on our tables. Come on, let's go. Tasha, see you next week. The Rio Mino watershed in Clarendon, Jamaica is home to Jamaica's longest river, the Rio Mino, which is approximately 93 kilometers. In the upper section of the watershed lives farmer Blair, who along with many farmers make a living by growing a wide range of crops, including cabbage, callaloo, and peppers. However, farming in this area is not without its challenges. Farmers in the watershed have to confront the direct and indirect impacts of climate change.
Rainfall is the only source of water supply for the farmers in this area. But based on climate projections, these farmers might be in for a rude awakening due to changes in the rainfall pattern and the increased frequency of drought. Take, for example, this pond, which is normally 20 feet deep. It has now been reduced to a mere 5 feet because of droughts.
Warning, warning, warning! Climate change is happening. We got to do something, no doubt. To the world, we're calling out.
It's like a gambling when we farm, when the rain is, because we have excess rain, long rain. Whenever it's dry, we have long drought.
So right now you don't even know when to put in whatever to put in the soil, in the crop, the crops. It's hard to predict.
Because even 3 years back, this time we couldn't even have tractor on this land. Because we get, as you see, May step in, rain, rain, rain. May, June, you know, we always get a lot of rain. But you know, for the past 2.5 years or stuff like that, just like this.
I tell you, when we have drought, I have a pond that I pump water from to wet the farm, and whenever that pond is dry, then we have to pump water from the big lake here to fill those ponds. And it is really costly.
Recently, you know, I have this pepper crop that was nice and flourishing and things like that. And then I come and we get this few days of hard rain. If we wash the water, wash and things like that, and they just quail down. Right now that crop is out.
The experiences of farmers in the Rio Mino watershed are common to that of most farmers in Jamaica. This is because, like many other islands in the Caribbean, Jamaica is highly vulnerable to climate risks.
It touches and concerns every ministry. And in fact, one of the things we are going to do is to advocate that there is a budget line in each ministry that is making provisions for climate change.
Over the last 12 years, the country has been impacted by 11 storm-related systems, which have caused severe damage and losses to the economy.
The effects of climate change on communities like these in the Rio Mino watershed have to be understood and addressed in order to build the resilience of Jamaica. This is exactly what the pilot program for climate resilience seeks to do.
Jamaica is one of 6 pilot countries in the Caribbean benefiting from the pilot program for climate resilience. The others are St. Lucia, Dominica, Haiti, Grenada, and St. Vincent.
There are 3 objectives to the pilot program for climate resilience. There are 1, improving the quality of climate information for decision making at the national and local levels. 2, mainstreaming climate change adaptation in development planning. And 3, improving access to climate financing for micro, small and medium enterprises and for non-governmental organizations at the community level.
This type of programmatic approach or integrated approach presents an avenue for financial institutions like the Inter-American Development Bank in collaboration with other partners to help countries address the impacts of climate change.
We're really excited about what the pilot program for climate resilience has done for Jamaica's climate change adaptation program. One of the things that we really want to highlight is the fact that the network for meteorological services has been greatly enhanced. We have been able to install 20 automatic weather stations to improve the collection and management of climate data, to downscale regional climate models for Jamaica, and we can tell you what Jamaica's climate is likely to be up to 2080.
It's a critical element of our work on climate change within the region. And we want to be able to replicate, to scale up across the country, even across sectors.
Bless up, bless up, bless up. Farmers in the Rio Mino watershed and the other areas of Jamaica can now breathe a sigh of relief because they will not be left on their own to deal with the impacts of climate change. Now they can collaborate with the IDB and the government of Jamaica. Through programs like the Pilot Program for Climate Resilience, Jamaica is fast becoming the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Warning, 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 warning. To the world. Warning, warning, warning. Climate change is happening. We got to do something, no doubt. To the world, we're calling out. Hey. See the signs, they all reveal that global climate change is real. It's not a matter of when or how. Climate change is happening now. Sea levels are rising globally. We're losing our beaches constantly. Ooh, summers are hotter than they used to be. Stronger hurricanes more frequently. You see? Severe flooding, longer droughts. That's what climate change is all about. You know that we have to do what we have to do. We've got to prepare. Start by being aware. Yo, a long time we are upset the ecology. No climate change is a reality. No strange weather changes all year round. We can't stop it, but we can slow it down. Small islands will feel it the most, especially the people them with the on the coast. We're losing the reefs and the beaches, flooded in the coastal communities. See the signs, they all reveal that global climate change is real. Now warn you, it's not a matter of when or how. Climate change is happening now. Watch this, they're burning the garbage everywhere. They're cutting down the trees. Pollution in the air. Only and can't breathe. I know, my love. To adapt to the ever-changing climate, some lifestyle changes we got to make. Emission of gases we have to reduce. Turn off the lights when they're not in use. So much of the warming changes we see are caused by human activity.
Chemicals poisoning the air.
Poisoning the air.
Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
This is a warning.
Warning, 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 warning.
Climate change is happening.
We've got to do something.
Tell you.
Act now.
The Tainas lived here through their time, and we came after and inherited what it is they left behind. We will live through our time, and our children and their children will inherit what it is we have left behind. Today, while you drive or cut down that tree, whatever it is you do that will impact the environment, think about what kind of earth you want to leave behind. That's it from me today. Join us again tomorrow, same time on your local television station. Until then, send me your feedback on today's show through our Facebook and Twitter pages. We are also available 24 hours per day on the JIS website or our YouTube channel. I'm Theodore Henry. Do your part in preserving the only earth we know.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.